Hey, before we get started, I want to tell you about something that's changing the game for women in dental leadership. It's called the Empowered Leadership Experience for Women in Dental. It's a 6-month transformational journey for women who are done with burnout, overfunctioning, and trying to lead like someone they're not. This isn't just another leadership training, it's a coming home to your voice, your power, and your joy. If you've ever felt alone at the top or stuck somewhere in the middle, this one's for you. Enrollment is now open. Head to leadhershipexperience.com to enroll. Because real leadership isn't about performing, it's about remembering who you are. Now, let's get into today's episode. On this episode of A Real Talk of Dental, I speak with my two dear friends and colleagues, Laura and Danielle from LD Coaching. They're both hygienists and also support other hygienists in living a life that they love. Within the world of hygiene, offering clinical support and how to work best with your team, and then also in the personal side on how to live a life that really lights you up and that you feel connected to. I met Laura and Danielle a few years ago and we hit it off right away. They're my kind of people. They're incredibly warm, passionate, supportive, and real talkers. I love them too because they're from the East Coast and they got that Boston sass that I absolutely love, and not to mention a little bit of the accent. And in this episode, we talk about the real stuff that's going on in hygiene, and they do not hold back. We talk about the notorious idea of hygienists being divas and how to navigate that. Temps taking over the hygiene space and getting paid astronomical wages for not providing the same level of care. And how to have difficult conversations when people are doubting your value and what you bring to the office as hygienists. And of course, we get a little bit of coaching in there too if you're navigating some of that tough stuff like imposter syndrome, and if you're in the wrong place because your clinical standard of care doesn't match the office that you're in. Tune in, this one surely gets real, and I can't wait to share it with you. Laura and Danielle, welcome to The Real Talk of Dental. I'm so excited to have you with me today. Two extraordinary hygienists and entrepreneurs, and you are going to be telling us a little bit about your story and entrepreneurship, hygiene, and all that goes on between the two. So welcome. I'm happy to have you here today.
Thank you. We're happy to be here.
So let's dive into it. So one of the biggest things about the work that you do is you both were clinical hygienists and you've created a really exceptional life outside of hygiene with creating a business that supports other hygienists and folks in the dental space. So I was wondering, what was the moment for each of you where you decided, I need to do more than this, and then also share what you're doing for hygienists in the industry altogether?
Yes, I love this question. So, for both Danielle and I, it's a little different. For me, my family moved and I switched offices. So, I was at an office for 10 plus years, thought I was going to be there forever. And then a move ended up moving me away from there. There was some other things going on. And where I ended up landing, I had a lot of growth. I've always been someone that's kind of like searched for growth, wanted growth, loved to learn. So I started to expand my role from just clinical hygiene. I was their clinical hygiene coordinator, which was
Mm-hmm.
a really cool opportunity. And at the same time this was happening, Danielle, you want to share your story?
Yeah, absolutely. At the same time, I was going through burnout. I mean, honestly, a lot of hygienists and just people in general, humans, have been through burnout, understand burnout, are in the phase of burnout right now. And I was going through it pretty hard, both in the op and just with some stuff going on with my own personal life. And I needed change. I needed something different. And kind of seeing what Laura was doing with her new position and knowing that there was more for me outside of those four walls, I decided to make a move. I just left where I was with really no idea of where I was going, but it was the absolute best feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. Like, I felt free. And if you've never felt like that before, I encourage you to try to feel it because it's just the best thing ever. And so from that moment on, I knew that I wanted to do more with, obviously, in the industry, but also for myself, creating more space, more time, more freedom. And then that's where kind of Laura and I came together I ended up working with her clinically at the new office that she was at, the small DSO, and we just decided that we needed to do something to help other hygienists really elevate themselves, stop feeling stuck and stagnant. And yeah, so that's when we decided to just come together, create this coaching business, which has beautifully evolved over the last 4 years to be so much more than we could have ever imagined. And here we are today, empowering hygienists. We're working with teams. Increasing ROI is, obviously important for the docs, but I think a lot of that comes the empowerment of the team, the empowerment of the hygienist, having the same mission, the same vision, and really the confidence to elevate the standard of care that they're providing to their patients.
Yeah, from really a preventative standpoint and taking ownership of their career. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I love that. And what is something that you've learned from coaching hygienists that you weren't experiencing yourself, or just even the day-to-day clinical aspect of it? Like, what has been the biggest awareness that you've had coaching other hygienists?
The biggest awareness, I guess, I mean, this is a personal thing. I think that for me, the pure joy and satisfaction I get from empowering other humans to go after their dreams and to actually help them with whatever that may be, past traumas, like, and to see them come out on the other side, there's no other feeling. And I think for me, that is what I love to just see and feel for myself and for them. I think that there is more burnout and it is so much more rampant than I ever actually thought. And so that's been really interesting to navigate, but also to help them through what I've been through has been really wonderful.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it's about allowing individuals to have the space to recognize that there's more. There's like remembering why they got into hygiene and how they can best serve. And when someone can understand their why and can remember who they are and why they're here in the first place, that really makes a big difference with that self-fulfillment.
Yeah, and what would you say are some of the biggest things that hygienists are dealing with? Like when they come to you for coaching, or just when you're working with them, that you recognize over and over? What do you think are the top symptoms struggling hygienists have?
Absolutely. I think autonomy, negative, toxic work environments, like what to do, how to have those difficult conversations, how to advocate for themselves and their patients, having a good relationship with the doctor, making sure that they have the same vision and mission, like Danielle had mentioned earlier. A lot of times it's just misalignment, right? So if you can make sure that everybody on is playing for the same team and everybody is rowing in the same direction and working together, it makes a huge difference. And, oh,
Mhm.
am I missing anything, Danielle?
No, I think you're spot on. I also think that there is a lot of self-doubt.
Hmm.
We definitely deal a lot with that. I think a lot of us, I mean, imposter syndrome is real. And so we all deal with it at some point through our careers, but really just showing them and guiding them to the other side has been really, really awesome. But a lot of hygienists, yeah, they're burnt out. They have self-doubt and they just can't see further than the four walls of the op. That's when we were working with clients, one on two, when we're working with offices. Yeah, same, Laura, like definitely just making sure that everybody's on the same page is so important.
Yeah. And what do you think some of the biggest causes of burnout are for hygienists? Because I hear this all the time. Is this, hygienists feeling incredibly overworked, demand for better pay, the struggles within the offices as far as like expectations? I mean, those are some things that I hear about quite commonly. What, in addition to that, or anything you want to elaborate on with those particular things that add to such burnout in the profession?
Toxic work environment, like Laura was
Mhm.
saying, autonomy. I think that, autonomy is a huge one. And I also think too, again, it goes back to the team. Like everybody has to be on that same page. And when you're working with a doctor, not quote unquote for a doctor, when you're working together side by side and you have that freedom to co-diagnose and to elevate the standards and continue to learn and grow with what you're doing in the space. I mean, beautiful things can happen. And I know for both Laura and I, like we've been burnt out, we've been there, we've been on that hamster wheel. And we've also worked with doctors that allow us to be our own individuals and have that autonomy. So we've seen both sides of it. And definitely burnout is just so rampant. It's sad.
I
Yeah.
think too, if hygienists can almost like look at a higher level, right? And no patient is the same. you have to have the conversations with the patients, almost putting puzzle pieces together, like figuring out what the patient's needs are and really focusing in on that oral systemic link and empowering the patients to take control of their health. I know something that's really elevated Danielle and I's clinical career because there's so much growth within the four walls of the operatory for hygienists that are wanting more and are looking to improve their clinical skills. Dive into myofunctional therapy, dive into airway, dive into the oral systemic link. When you're able to help your patients prevent disease, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Danielle, you keep mentioning autonomy. And so, what you mean by that is if the hygienist has a different clinical expectation or standard of care and it doesn't necessarily match the doctor's standard of care, the office's standard of care, like that can lead to burnout and just this dread and just
Mm.
discomfort practicing. Is that what you're talking about when you mention autonomy?
Oh, hands down, 1,000%. I'm going through it right now personally, working, Laura and I are coaching an office that it's kind of this uniquely weird situation, but we're working with an office kind of for them too at the same time to kind of show do tell. And when you're trying to elevate and have this standard and it's not being matched, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I mean, because I talk about values all the time and boundaries and the importance of that
Mhm.
and really honoring your personal values and your personal boundaries. And would you recommend to a hygienist if they have a certain level of clinical care and the office refuses to acknowledge it or work with that hygienist, that at the end of the day, that office is not the right fit for them and it's time for them to leave and find another place to work? Is that what you would recommend typically?
I highly recommend that. Yes, because you're going to feel burnt out at the end of the day. You can only push so far and be pushed back at so far,
Yes.
and then you break. It's kind of like any relationship really in life. And
Yeah.
so if you're not meeting each other where you're at, then it's time to move on, to find somebody that does want to provide that standard of care that you do.
And
Yeah.
this is where I'm going to go off on a little rant right here. This is where the
Please,
hygienists and
preach.
doctors, this is where the hygienists and doctors, we need to come together. We need to work
Mhm.
together because I hate the fact that for whatever reason, dentists and hygienists a lot of the times are up against each other, and that's not going to solve anything. We need to actually work together. We need to elevate the standard of care and provide that optimal care to our patients because that is what patients deserve. And if we're not doing that, what good is that doing at all? So, how can we
Mhm.
come together? Like, let's create a solution. That's what I would love.
Yeah. And you bring up a topic that I hear a lot, I mean, as a coach, right? Because I coach the entire
Mhm.
office, and I know you guys get in there as well, but you hear this, the hygienists have a reputation that they're divas, and they have these expectations that can never be met.
Mhm.
So, how do you guys respond to the idea that hygienists are divas and they're untouchable? Because that creates, I know, in a lot of offices, this tension, even with front office, right?
Mhm.
Because front office sort of has this loyalty to the doctor. I mean, at the end of the day, they're the ones usually paying their
Writing the
paycheck,
check.
and yeah, so they have this loyalty there, and there can become, I mean, in every office there's the tension between the front and the back. I mean, it's a tension as old as the test time, but especially with hygienists, it's like this idea that hygienists can just walk around and do whatever they feel like and that they're running the show. And I know that's sort of a reputation and a stigma. I'm not saying I believe it, but you hear it about it all the time. So, what do you guys say in response to that?
Yeah, I
I
hate that
mean,
stigma.
I yeah, I don't like that stigma, and I could see where people could think that to be true, but where Laura and I both worked, or I still work in Salem Dental Arts with Dr. Maragliano, like, we're a pure team, the front and the back, and everybody works together. We're all there for the same vision, the same mission, the same reason, where we have the same wants and needs, and I can see where, because I, again, worked at other offices, where we kind of the hygienists are almost shunned by the front, but I think that they forget that we're also like prevention specialists. We're that quote unquote provider too, just as much as the doctor is a provider. And I hate that term provider, but we're also creating income for the office too. And so I don't think that any one person should necessarily be treated better or worse than anybody. We're a team, and that's when you're going to get the most successful results, and is when everybody works together.
Yeah, I like that.
Creating that solution, right? I think that's what we ultimately have to do.
Yeah. And then also, I think too, it's up to the leaders in the office to help squash that
Mm-hmm.
stereotype or that stigma. And sometimes what's happening behind the scenes is, even doctors can be contributing to it, right? So it's also a leadership conversation. And like Danielle, you touched on, a cultural expectation that's within the office too, because sometimes doctors can contribute to the gossip as well, that I'm sure you both are well aware of. And speaking of, just kind of stigmas or judgments, do either of you experience any kind of shade or judgment from other hygienists in the industry working, as coaches outside of clinical hygiene? Or, Laura, I know you've just taken on a new business adventure too. Does that exist within the field of hygiene where there's like, ranks, whether if you're full-time hygiene or you're doing a hybrid or something like that? Does that exist at all? Do you guys feel any of that?
Oh, I'm sure it exists, but I mean, I feel like there's enough abundance for everybody. I don't
Mhm.
see that. And I think that everybody has a season. So for
Yeah.
me personally, I don't see that. I think we're all meant to do what's right when that time comes. But I'm sure it does exist. I know some friends that have dealt with unfortunate situations, or they feel like they've been talked down to other hygienists because they're not a full-time hygienist, or they're, more in the speaking role or something along those lines. Yeah, unfortunately, it does exist.
Yeah. So I actually had a question from a call-in, that I wanted to run past you both. So as you know, we have the Real Talk Anonymous hotline that people can call in and ask questions. And somebody that knew you both were going to be on called in and asked a question. Something that they're dealing with is they dread the workday. And so they don't work every day of the week for hygiene. I think they work about 3 days a week, hygiene. And they feel really great when they don't have to work hygiene the next day. But the night before and even the morning of, when they know they have to work, there's this feeling of just dread and not wanting to go and a lot of resistance. And
Mhm.
they were looking for some suggestions on how to navigate that and overcome it. Because typically they're a pretty positive person and they have a good outlook on life. But when they know they got to work the next day and they look at their schedule and, they just see the demands of the day, it just puts them in this funk. So what would your
Yeah.
answer be for her?
Or I'll let you handle the positivity part, but I think for me, as somebody that used to happen to very often, I think, and again, it's always a work in progress. It's not a super simple solution. And I just think if you can start by adjusting your mindset, and this was really huge for me when I finally realized that it wasn't necessarily about me anymore. It was about the
Mhm.
people that I was about to serve that day, and kind of coming from a higher power, that I am so blessed and I am so lucky that I get to go to work today and serve these patients to get them healthy. Like, otherwise, who knows what would have happened to these patients? Like, I get to
Mhm.
do that for them. I get to be that person. And then, like Laura was saying earlier, just providing that individualized care to each and every patient will help guide you through that day. It's not easy. And again, it's a constant work in progress, and really just continuing to admit that white light that Laura talks about all the time, and just coming from a higher self of service.
And I would love to just add, like, what really, for that person, that individual, like, what is making you feel that way? Like, try to get to the root of it. Is it because you're in a toxic environment? Is it because of what you're physically doing? Is it because, you need to like reignite your passion for the clinic? Is it because your back is killing you or your wrists are killing you? Like, where is that dread coming from? Is it because you're on the demand and you're in fight or flight? Like, listen to your body and try to understand where that dread is coming from, and then work backwards from there.
There's like that little whisper too, kind of bouncing off of what you're saying, Laura. Sometimes there's that little whisper that keeps like keeps nudging at us, because we're meant for so much more than what we're currently doing. And sometimes that can show up in that light for that person. So really listening to your inner body and leaning into wherever that's pulling you, I think is really important also.
Yeah. Awesome. So tell us something that the industry is not saying out loud right now. So what do you think the hygiene world is talking about or not talking about that needs to be said loudly and publicly? Because I know there's so much going on in hygiene right now, and there's a lot of opinions. There's a lot of policy being tossed around and ideas and suggestions. So I want to, because this is the real talk of dental, so I want you to get on your soapbox as much as you feel comfortable and talk to me about what you see going on in hygiene and how you feel about it.
So many things. And I think, we were kind of discussing this a little bit earlier. The demand of hygiene, the quote unquote hygiene shortage that is going on. I mean, I could go in so many different directions with this. They say that there's a hygiene shortage, but I feel like there's a shortage of really good dentists and dental offices that hygienists want to work in. I think when you see this quote unquote hygiene shortage, and we're utilizing now temp agencies and temps, and this isn't for everybody, but this is for the vast majority of what I see, is we're hiring these temp hygienists at astronomical prices between $70 and $115 an hour to come in to these offices and provide subpar care. And it is just absolutely mind-blowing and infuriating, and it's killing our industry because we're not elevating the standards. We're not providing that care that we should be providing, and it's just not sustainable long term.
That was a mic drop moment for sure. I love that you said there's not just a shortage of hygienists, there's a shortage of offices and doctors that hygienists want to work for. That's badass. Laura, how about you?
Yes, I couldn't agree more with that. I also think that we need a shakeup for insurance reform. I think that if we could go fee for service and like say to insurance companies and just get rid of it, that would be a beautiful thing.
If you were to say to a young hygienist just coming out of hygiene school, I mean, I guess you probably think about this quite often. I mean, how long have each of you been practicing now? Let's start there.
It's almost 17 years.
17 years? Yeah.
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 And you went to hygiene school together, is that right?
We did.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love it. So if you were to have a conversation with your younger self, or even some of the hygienists coming out now, because I think a lot has changed in 17 years even,
Oh,
right? So the
definitely.
industry's changed a lot and the expectations have changed a lot. What advice would you give to a young hygienist coming out right now?
When I came out of hygiene school, you couldn't find a job. Like there was no jobs to be had. It was like
Mm.
super scarce, and you just kind of took what you could get. Things are definitely very different. I think to my younger self, I would say continue learning, continuing to elevate yourself. Don't get stagnant, don't get comfortable because there's no growth when you're comfortable. And that's kind of what happened to me outside of hygiene school, was just getting that first job, staying comfortable, staying stagnant. I stopped learning, and that's when the burnout really hit hard. So just continuing to push myself to learn, and just whatever the latest trends are, to make sure that I was staying on top of the latest and greatest innovations and technologies.
I couldn't agree more with that. Never stop learning for yourself personally and professionally. Like, I love self-development. I think everybody should learn, and we're always a work in progress. Like, no one's perfect. I'm still healing myself, you know, but I think that if we can continue to work towards that, it brings a lot of fulfillment. And change is the only constant. You just
Mhm.
have to like lean into that and get comfortable being uncomfortable would be a really great advice for my younger self.
And I like how you both reference learning when it comes to both the personal development and then also clinically, right? Because I'm such a huge advocate for education. I know education is power. It helps, especially for women, to be able to build their self confidence, not only with the tangible stuff like the clinical stuff, but also build self esteem.
Yeah.
So they can recognize, like you've been sharing, that, hey, maybe this isn't a fit for me anymore, or maybe I've evolved on and it's time for me to move on. Or maybe I want to change careers altogether, right? Because that's always an option too. And people can feel very stuck and very trapped in situations. But if they're growing and expanding themselves personally and also their skill set, it opens more doors and more options because you have more self awareness. And then you can, apply all of it at a new opportunity, whatever that might look like.
I couldn't
Mhm.
agree more with that. And can I share a story really quick? For me, like with my new role that just presented, I had a really hard time accepting the fact that I was not going to be a clinical practicing hygienist full time because my identity, I have been a clinical practicing hygienist for the last 17 years. And I love clinical hygiene. And I had a hard time accepting that. I had a hard time being like, you know what? This is okay for me to accept this opportunity and see where that takes me. And I'm so thankful that Danielle and I are still able to consult and coach and have our business, as well as doing this market development manager role within BNI New Hampshire. And it's incredible how much synergy there is with what we're doing from the two. But if I didn't allow myself to be uncomfortable and to accept that and acknowledge that it's okay to move on from things when opportunities present itself, I never would have done that. And so I think that right there is like, listen to what the world is offering you. Like, stay open minded and listen to that inner voice, that higher self, that whisper, like Danielle was saying.
Yeah, and in you sharing that, it made me think of something because hygienists are kind of notoriously perfectionists, right? Which is good. I want my hygienist to be a perfectionist, when it comes to the clinical aspect for sure. And so very methodical, perfectionist type personalities typically. And something that I notice for people that are methodical and perfectionistic is it's hard to pivot, like you're talking about, or change your mind. Because as a recovering perfectionist myself, I used to think when I changed my mind, it meant that I failed at the thing that I was changing my mind from, right? Because we get very committed, being methodical, perfectionistic, and high commitment. Like if you're a badass hygienist, you're all of those things, right?
Mhm.
And you are very committed and very strong and solid in your hygiene career. And then all of a sudden, there's a day where you're like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Am I able to change my mind? Is that okay? Like, what is that saying to other people? And we can tell the story of, oh, well, I wasn't good enough at hygiene, or I made the wrong choice, right? Because perfectionists always want to make the right choice, a very calculated move. I'm going to make this choice and it's going to be the right one. And so we tell ourselves all these negative stories, but we can also flip the script and say, I'm showing others that it's okay to change your mind and do something that you really believe in, because the only choice that you'll always get right is choosing you,
Mic drop.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you
Mhm.
continue choosing you, you're on the right path, and it's going to look
Mhm.
different every year,
Mhm. Yes.
Mhm.
sometimes every day.
Yes.
And isn't ultimately that's what we want? We always want to continue to evolve and live in our highest self and choose you. And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to change your mind. Like that's the most beautiful thing. Like you get to wake up every morning and decide who you want to be that day.
Mhm.
Yes. All right. So, what is lighting you up right now in hygiene? I know we talked about some of the controversial stuff that's happening, but what right now is what lights you up? What's exciting you in the world of hygiene?
Yeah, I mean, both Laura and I absolutely love guided biofilm therapy. So we both are GBT users. We absolutely love just the whole protocol around that. So that innovative technology has been kind of game changing for both of us in the op. There's some super cool innovative products coming out, which are also really fun around like desiccation of calculus. And obviously, we're both lovers of silver diamine fluoride. So just being able to continually learn and elevate and just provide the best standard of care to our patients. I just love all of it.
Yeah. Preventative dentistry, I think, and really thinking like the oral systemic whole body health, empowering your patient to take control of their health and truly prevent disease. I think that lights me up.
Yeah, I love talking sleep with my patients too.
Mm.
I had actually, I'll tell you a funny story. I had a patient the other day, long story short, lots going on there. I started to talk about airway and sleep, and he started to get really agitated with me and told me that he'll sleep when he's dead and proceeded to like jump out of the chair and left.
Hmm.
And I'm like, sad for him that he couldn't see that I was just trying to help him because airway is so important to our oral microbiome. But yeah, it's just crazy that people don't respect or see or understand like where we're coming from as a whole body prevention specialist in the chair. Like it's just, it was really sad at the time. And now I have to laugh about it because I
Yeah.
felt awful, but I'm like, I'm just trying to help.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Education, right? Knowledge is power. And
yes.
some people, because we're all humans, don't want to hear it. They're not accepted or accepting of it. But we just have to keep
Yeah.
on keeping on.
Yes.
You make me think, what has been your biggest what the F moment working hygiene?
I just think like that, like just patience that and I get Laura and I have done a lot of personal advancement and growth and care and all of the things around just like personal development. So we understand patients at a whole different level than we ever did before. And so now we can really see things when people are like projecting or like are stubborn or pushing back. Like we can better navigate those conversations now than we ever could before. But it's just like those patients that are just so aggressive in the chair.
Mm.
And again, all you're trying to do is just help. And then sometimes it's like, yeah, what the F am I doing? Like I'm trying so hard. Why do I keep doing this if patients don't care? But
Yeah.
it's just learning how to have those conversations, which I think we've done a beautiful job at learning how to do. But it can be hard. It can be hard when you're trying so hard to help those patients at a whole different level and they're just not understanding or wanting it.
So you've had people, I mean, obviously this one gentleman did. Has it happened before? People just get up and leave the chair. They're like, I'm out of here.
That was actually the first for me, which was
Yeah.
pretty, I was like, okay, slight trauma here, but we're going to work through this. But no, it's been times where patients have like stopped us and like, don't want to do things or, pushed back really hard. And it's like, just being okay asking them why, or like talking, it's a much deeper conversation of like what is actually stemming them to feel this way than to actually just leaning in and allowing them to have that behavior.
I had a patient similar to Danielle's, but didn't actually get up and walk out, where he was combating everything that I said to him. And so I just broke it down and I was like, what do you want to hear from me? What can I help with you today? Like, how can we work on one thing? This is what I'm seeing. If you weren't told this before or this wasn't discussed with you before, I apologize, but this is what I'm seeing today. This is my first time seeing you. You have active disease. This is what this means. What can we do to work together that will make you feel okay? You can't do everything, and patients get easily overwhelmed. And so sometimes it's just like, you know what? Let me step back. And I mean, he was pretty combative. Danielle was in the room right next door listening to the whole thing.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
and
It's your amazed
and
they're even like there. Like, hey, you came here, you came to see me, right?
Yeah.
yes, yes, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And at the end, he ended up apologizing, and he said, you know what? Like, I appreciate everything that you did or tried to do. It's just I was not receptive of it. And I think just bringing that awareness and being able to recognize it, yes, of course, nobody should be ever treated disrespectfully or deal with stuff like that. But we're all humans. And when you're dealing with humans, sometimes people don't know how to deal with their own feelings. And so they act in inappropriate ways based
Yeah.
out of fear.
And I really like how you both shifted the attention to the patient and you didn't take it personally, right?
Yeah.
And I think that shows like that's the testament to your growth and the work you've done too in the personal development space because it's really easy when somebody's being combative or attacking to not take it personally and to feel like they're attacking you and making something about you in the situation versus you both recognizing, okay, this person isn't open to hearing what I have to say. And I think it also shows how rooted you both are in your values and your beliefs and what you stand for in hygiene because there was no, oh my gosh, maybe I'm saying and doing the wrong thing, right? Maybe I should have done this instead. It's like, nope. This is who I am. This is what I represent clinically. These are my beliefs. This is what I provide. And, I'm giving this to you. And if you're not ready to receive it or you're not open to this, then okay, right? That's more on you. And both of you are working your magic, as far as communication and trying to be supportive and finding a way in to talk with that patient. But at no point are you going to compromise your care, right? And I think that's something that you both have that you teach other hygienists on how to be grounded in that and be unmessable with,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So beautifully said. And in all aspects. And again, I feel like I'm dealing with a little bit, like I was saying before, of that, where I'm being pushed to not provide a standard of care that I refuse to back down from. And it's no longer serving me, so it's time to end that relationship. And yeah, I just hope that other hygienists can find that in them to stop living small and stop allowing other people to dictate the standard of care that they're supposed to provide.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you both so much for being on. We covered a lot, and I always love and appreciate how direct you both are and real you both are. And I know that our friendship was started because of that realness and honest conversation that we had a few years ago at the Dental Entrepreneurial Women's Retreat, actually. So really grateful for you both and all the work that you're doing to support the dental industry, and particularly hygienists and women in general, because you're both just two really incredible women living the best life you know how to live. And that's inspiring to me and to so many others that are watching you on your journey. So I'm super grateful to have you on, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Brandy.
Thank you so much.